chime of the bell beckons us into a sacred time. Welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Houston, a congregation that welcomes you and extends a heartfelt and inclusive invitation to join us in meaningful worship and in service to the world. Come, everyone who wants to. Come if you like to study theology. Come if you like to finger paint. Come if you've been in the church since birth. Come if this is the first day you've courageously arrived. Come if you can say all 7 Unitarian Universalist principles by heart. Come if you don't even know what they are yet. Come if you are a tradition of ritual, and if you like tradition and ritual and ceremony, and come if you like balloons and laughter and jumping in puddles. Come if you like all of these things and love the mystery of the universe. Come as you are, old and young, just as you are right now, each of you, every one of you. And let us have this time together. We greet all of you who join us this morning in our sanctuary and all of our many online viewers, así como el creciente número de participantes bilingües que nos acompañan desde sus hogares. We are glad you have joined us this morning for our bread communion, an annual tradition and ritual on the Sunday before Thanksgiving. We will be sharing with one another our delicious breads inspired by our ancestors. While wearing masks in the sanctuary is currently optional, you are encouraged to continue to wear your mask if you are more comfortable doing so. Finally, we want you to notice that in the pew pocket, you will find a laminated page with our repeated elements of our regular worship. Please refer to this information throughout the morning service. And now please join Dr. Rock for our first hymn.
Good morning. Please open your gray hymnals to number 69, Give Thanks, and then rise in body or in spirit and join in singing.
We gather this morning to break bread together, a phrase that is infused with a sense of hospitality. More than sharing a meal, breaking bread together is sharing a sense of kinship that may foster deep connection. We gather to tell stories of our ancestors and those they broke bread with. We gather to remember our connections to those ancestors, to give thanks for the connections with those with us here today, and to look forward to those connections we and our families will enjoy in the future. Come, let us break bread together.
Celebremos compartiendo nuestras vidas, encendiendo esta luz.
Our annual bread communion is a multi-generational service, which means that we share the hour with all ages, our children, our teenagers, as well as our adults, our elders. It is a special time to be together each autumn. At the end of each pew, you will find colored pencils, crayons, and images to color. It's actually every other pew, so you can look for it. And at the quiet, still parts of the service, we invite you to each color and listen. And there are some chef's hats that we wish you would color and put on. Finally, we want you to join us in action at the end of the service as we share and carry our bread, which is represented by the canned food collection that we have for the Emergency Aid Coalition, our Feed Our the Community, which is what we have every fall. We walk a couple of blocks down and share with our neighbors. Today, we celebrate our annual bread communion ritual. From the flour communion, which originated 100 years ago in Czechoslovakia, to the water communion at our ingathering, Unitarian Universalists have embraced ritual. But unlike our creedal friends, our rituals are not overlaid with the symbolism of salvation or the afterlife. As a covenantal people, we appreciate the welcome ritual that draws us into community and grounds us in spirituality and in the justice work we are called to do in this world. Rituals are seen as bridges between the secular and sacred realms, or individually, perhaps, between a believer and the deity. Today, through the imagery and symbolism of bread, tangible gifts from the soil, we reach down the sacred realm in the past to remember and honor our ancestors. We do this in order to better reach forward and embrace family and community members coming after us. Before we begin our ritual, we're going to share a story about how bread is baked and enjoyed around the world. We'll turn down the lights. Bread is made and eaten in every country of the world. Like this child eating traditional bread his mom has made for a market in Peru. This bread, while it is labeled American, it is made in Indonesia and sliced and packaged American style. There is lunchy bread, like here, sandwiches made with crunchy French bread and shared with friends. Did you think about pizza being bread? It's made from dough rolled out and baked with all kinds of toppings, created first in Italy and now a big favorite here in the US and in many parts of the world. It is fun to make and shape bread in your own kitchen with your friends and family, and bake it in your own oven. Or cook it on a griddle, like these tortillas being fried in Mexico. And if you need to deliver some bread, you might do it on your head. The bread we brought today, we will eat bites of later. And they are from different cultures and different experiences, from the different cultures of our community, and we bring them together. We celebrate our breads, our different cultures and experiences, and honor our ancestors from all over the world.
Please join with me in a spirit of reflection, a time that some call meditation and others name prayer. Breathe with me the breath of life. Breathe in for loving, for acceptance, and with a sense of calm. Breathe out the sorrow, the division, and the stress. Inhale as we share this interwoven, intricate web of affinity. Exhale as we feel one another's presence. Breathe with me as we gather to do the holy work of kinship and support. Open your mind, open your heart. God of many names and mystery beyond all our naming. Today, the activities and the upcoming holidays remind us of what we too often forget, that we do not stop often enough to reflect on our blessings and express gratitude for them. We ask that you guide our hearts and minds to do that this week and today and during this hour. Help us to reflect on those things we have to be thankful for, and reflect on those people with us now or with us in spirit whom we are thankful for. We once took time with those people and offered thanks before every meal, pausing to acknowledge those who provided and prepared the food. But we are busy now, barely pausing to eat, and often not together with loved ones. May we remember to pause and take the time to give thanks. We know that the other side of the coin of gratitude and thankfulness is condemnation and censure. We are well aware that while our society has neglected showing appropriate gratitude, we have often not neglected condemning those we see as different, threatening, or even expendable. On this Transgender Day of Remembrance, we remember those who have been threatened, faced violence, and even been murdered simply for living into the full expression of who they are. As recently as last night in Colorado at Club Q, where at least 5 people were killed, the violence continues. Our hearts break with those who worry for and who have lost loved ones. During this American Indian and Alaska Native Heritage Month, we remember those who have been threatened, faced violence, and been murdered, even after famously having helped give new immigrants a reason to give thanks for surviving on a new continent. Our hearts break that the repercussions of the banishment and virtual genocide of Native Americans are deeply felt to this day. So today, we not only say thanks, but ask for help in saying thanks more often, to condemn less, and to stand up more often for those who are condemned, not so that we can be thanked by them, but because it is the right thing to do. We pray in the names of all those known and unknown, present and absent, remembered and forgotten. We pray in the names of all helpers of humankind. Amen. We pause now together to lift up that which sits heavy and light on our hearts. We are holding Tawana close in our hearts. Her uncle, Marcus Jackson Sr., passed away last weekend, and her dear friend Carolyn Rich and her uncle Walter Lee Martin are both battling health issues. We are keeping Connie Acosta in our thoughts as she mourns a significant loss. We join with Reverend Colin in mourning the passing of his longtime mentor, Stoughton Lind, who passed away at the age of 92 this week. The memorial service for longtime church member Joyce Ambler will be Friday, November 25th at 11 a.m. We send our love to John and the entire family. We now turn to a practice inspired by African, indigenous, and pagan traditions. We say aloud or bring to mind those who we wish to be held by the loving embrace of this religious community. They are part of the great cloud of witness and memory, and we will, even if we do not know their names, hold them in our hearts. In this great cloud of witness and memory, amid this beloved community, we hear these names and hold them in our hearts. Let us remember the suffering and joy amid and among our community that we do not know. We pause in awe and wonder of the beauty, diversity, and mystery that is life. In the spirit of love, in the spirit of hope, and in the spirit of compassion, I invite each of you to enter into a time of silent prayer, meditation, or reflection.
this moment filled with grace. This is my prayer. This is my prayer. May the sense of mystery guide us through our journey. This is my prayer. This is my prayer. This is my prayer.
Each week, our morning offering is shared with an organization that shares our Unitarian Universalist values and through which we may live out our principles in the world. This week, that organization is Casa Juan Diego. Casa Juan Diego was founded in 1980 to serve immigrants, refugees, and the poor. From one small house near the Rice Military Neighborhood of Houston, it has grown to 9 houses. This morning, we welcome active church member Dale Story to tell us more.
Good morning. Thank you, Mirta, for that wonderful introduction, and allow me to begin with some of the stories of those people that Casa Juan Diego is serving. I've had the good opportunity to help with those migrants, transporting them to and from Casa Juan Diego, and heard many of their stories. In their home countries, they are faced with untoward repression from the state and threats of violence and extortion from cartels. One migrant from Venezuela told me that his father had been killed and he feared the same death from death squads. A university student from Central America had been jailed without trial for speaking out against the government. Many migrants have relayed threats from cartels and even kidnapping of relatives for extortion. And their journey to the U.S. border is long and perilous. One woman described the danger of the Darien Gap into Panama. It's a gap in the Pan American Highway. The ecology, the climate, the topography is so treacherous and extreme, it's impossible to complete the highway. Yet the migrants are transiting that 60-mile gap. 3 Venezuelans showed me videos of their ride atop the Mexican freight train, the Beast, also known as the Train of Death. And once they arrive at the border, they continue to face a fairly not so friendly message, especially if you read the newspapers in the last day or two. The most telling experience regarded an asylum seeker inappropriately, it's being nice, sent to a detention center in Livingston, just north of here. The issue to get him released and transported to Casa Juan Diego involved 2 out-of-state agencies, a large bond, the Houston Interfaith Group, headed by Cheryl Abrahams of this church, and Casa Juan Diego. The person from California with the nonprofit that provided the bond described their negotiations with ICE in Livingston as deceitful. Despite the obstacles, he was eventually taken and arrived at Casa Juan Diego. And like all of those that arrive at Casa Juan Diego, he was greeted with open arms, love, and kindness. For the first time in months, if not years, he finally felt safe. It's very important to understand the devotion of the Catholic workers at Casa Juan Diego. No one receives a salary. Expenses are substantial, but they go entirely to the service of the migrants and the poor, and they're covered solely by voluntary contributions. The mission statement is based on Matthew 25, verses such as, I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you provided me drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. And these are not just words on a website. These are the words that the workers at Casa Juan de Diego practice every day, now for 42 years. That is the reason they couldn't be with us this morning. They are doing that today. In fact, they're having their own service with the migrants. Thank you very much.
Those in our sanctuary will find the instructions for text giving in the order of service, and those watching the live stream will see the instructions on your screen. Our regular Sunday morning offering collection invites us to weave a tapestry of love and action. We ask you to give generously. An offering will now be gratefully received.
Please join me in saying the dedication to the offering, which you can find on the pew card. To the work of this church, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our lives and these our offerings.
Please turn to the responsive reading in your order of service. I will read the words in regular print, and you will read those in bolded italics. Fresh baked bread is a delicious treat.
Filled with love and warmth and wheat.
Knead the dough and let it rise.
And soon you'll have a big surprise.
From the water, flour, and yeast
Grows a golden, delicious feast.
Bread by Richard Levine. Each night in a space he'd make between walking and purpose, my grandfather donned his one suit in our still dark house and drove through Brooklyn's deserted streets. Following trolley tracks to the bakery, there he changed into white linen work clothes and cap, and in the absence of women, his hands were both loving well into dawn and throughout the day, kneading, rolling out, shaping each astonishing moment of yeasty predictability, and that windowless world lit by slightly swaying naked bulbs, where the shadows staggering woozy with the aromatic warmth of the work. Then the suit and drive again, at our table, graced by a loaf that steamed when we sliced it, softened the butter, and leavened the air we breathe. He'd count us blessed.
I invite you to open your hymnals to number 1003 in the teal hymnal, 1003. And we're going to sing Where Do We Come From? But we're going to break it up. So this group here, everybody in front of me, we're going to sing line 1, which goes like this. Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Great. That's the only line that you're going to have to sing when it's time. So when I tell you to sing, you kind of help me out now. I need a little bit more sound than that. All right, so this side of the sanctuary, we're going to sing the third line. Okay, you're going to sing that with Carol. Ready? And
mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery.
do it again.
Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery.
All right, awesome. So the choir is not here, and they were singing in the first service, but that's okay. Chelsea and I got it. So we're gonna do the second line and the fourth line. So ready to start? You go over the first line. You're gonna keep going until I tell you to stop. Ready? And where do we come from? Where are we? Where are we going?
Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery.
Where do we come from? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where are we going? Thank you.
Seeds scattered on fertile ground are warmed by the sun and fed by the soil. They sprout and grow, producing great fields of grain.
We bless these seeds.
The grain is harvested and ground into flour and shipped across the nation. The flour is mixed with yeast and water and salt and kneaded, allowed to rise, and baked to make bread.
We bless these seeds. We bless this bread.
The breaking of bread is an ancient ritual of community, celebrated in many traditions. The bread is broken in the sacred space of this worship service and shared in this community of love.
We bless this bread. We bless this community of love.
Thank you. I'm loving all the people we have helping us today in our service. This is great. Food, clothing, and shelter are the three basics of human survival. But the latter two seem to last a bit longer. I wear sports jackets handed down from my father-in-law from back when he wore them into his West Texas law office. I have jeans that have lasted for years, although I'm only periodically able to fit into them. I've lived in my apartment since I moved to Houston over 3 years ago. Conrad first moved into our house in Dallas nearly 3 decades ago. But I find myself at HEB at least once a week. So perhaps it's not surprising that festivals celebrating gratefulness or really celebrations of any kind, center around food. The presence, and especially an abundance of food, has been a cause to give thanks since manna was delivered to the wandering followers of Moses via an Egyptian desert version of Grubhub. According to the Gospels, one of Jesus' last activities was sharing the Passover meal with the apostles. Luke quotes him as saying, "I have eagerly desired to eat this Passover with you." Commemoration of this event, of course, gave rise to the Eucharist, or Holy Communion, a crucial sacrament in Christian churches. Feast days memorializing the saints became regular occurrences down through history and within the early Christian church. Food is used to mark commemorations in many religions. Hanukkah would not be the same without latkes, often with applesauce and sour cream, beef brisket, and kugel. On the 7th and 40th and 1st anniversary following the death of a Muslim, the flour helva is offered to visitors by relatives of the deceased. The vegetarian or vegan Buddhist cuisine, based on the Dharmic concept of ahimsa, is observed by monks and some others year-round, and by many other Buddhists during celebrations. Specific foods are tied to certain holidays around the globe and are as traditional as our turkey, green bean casserole, and pumpkin pie. And during even less auspicious occasions, food takes center stage. Couples go out on a date over burgers, friends hang out and argue over pizza toppings, and many a family reunion features fried chicken and potato salad. When we gather to enjoy sports and entertainment, baseball includes, of course, a hot dog, a movie has a bucket of popcorn, and armchair quarterbacks have chips, salsa, and beer within arm's reach. Bread is virtual shorthand for food or sustenance, and we understand breaking bread means we'll be sharing quality time as well as something to eat. Bread has been a universal food virtually since there have been people to eat it, and no country in the world has a culinary tradition that does not include some sort of bread. Excavations of small villages of the Natufi culture in northeast Jordan have uncovered the remains of a hearth, which provides evidence that bread was made 14,000 years ago, 4 millennia before agriculture even began. The word for bread has appeared on Sumerian tablets since the first invention of writing in 3600 BCE. Bread was the staple food during the Roman Empire, and the emperor was obligated to provide it to everyone. Gradulus was a bread distributed to spectators during the games in amphitheaters, fulfilling the demagogue's promise of panem et circenses, or bread and circuses. Bread remained intertwined with politics down through the centuries until even more recent times. Bread and roses is a political slogan that originated in a speech by the women's suffrage activist Helen Todd. The phrase is associated with the 1912 textile strike in Lawrence, Massachusetts, now often called the Bread and Roses strike. The slogan paired the food and flour as it appealed for both fair wages and dignified working conditions. The slogan inspired a poem, which was set to music, and you may be familiar with the Judy Collins version. Years earlier in Massachusetts, beginning in the early 1600s, migrants from Europe celebrated both days of fasting and Thanksgiving to thank God for such blessings as harvests, ship landings, and the end of drought, and blessings such as warm bread. Richard Levine described it. At our table, graced by a loaf that steamed when we sliced it, softened the butter and leavened the very air we breathe. He'd count us blessed. Thanksgiving has been celebrated nationally on and off since 1789, and later became a federal holiday with a permanent date, the fourth Thursday in November. The colonists, of course, celebrated with foods indigenous to the Americas, with many of those dishes becoming holiday traditions for countless families. So it becomes easy to see the direct line our ancestors, baking breads and cooking dishes, began from long ago to us today. Many of you may have other food traditions in your families, like the pretzel salad or oyster dressing my grandmother would make. It's easy to see how and why these beloved foods are central to our memories, our celebrations, and family gatherings. But we may not often think about how we got to this point, and we may think even less about the legacy that we may be leaving to those following. So before we begin our bread communion, we will pause for a time to reflect on those who will come after us, to whom we will entrust these traditions, these foods, this love. We will pause to appreciate those now in our community, our friends and our family. We pause to express gratitude for these people, our food, clothing, and shelter. We pause to give thanks to our ancestors, to appreciate those who bequeathed these traditions to us. We've asked Natalie Brown to reflect on the bread traditions of her ancestors before each one of us does the same in the silence.
Hi. The bread that I've brought today is Brazilian cheese bread, which was created from the manioc root in Brazil. We call it tapioca up here. Initially, it was used by the African slaves, and they created a kind of bread that later in the 19th century was enhanced with eggs and cheese, and that's what you're going to get today. It does not come from my blood ancestors, the recipe, although they enjoyed it, I'm sure. Rather, it comes from the whole of Brazil, and when you go there to visit, you'll be able to find it without any problem at all in almost any cafe. I brought the bread because I seldom get a chance to talk about part of who I am. I'm half Brazilian. My mother is a third-generation Brazil-born of immigrants from the United States. The food of Brazil is one of the ways that I claim that heritage, and I give thanks for that part of my history. I hope you get a chance to taste the savory little bread. I'll tell you where you can find it if you ask me. It's the kind of yellowish looking, very, very round balls that are up here.
Thank you. I invite you now to reflect not only on your ancestors, but also those loved ones here, your friends and family with whom you break bread, and those who you are leaving a tradition to.
In a few minutes, when we begin, we will be inviting people to come forward to take a couple of pieces of bread. I invite the ushers to come forward. Please know that there is plenty and there was no need for you to have brought bread to receive bread. We hope everyone will come forward to partake in our bread communion. You also will have the opportunity to step to the microphone and briefly describe the bread you've brought and why it is special to you. Please limit your story to only a line or two. We want to hear from everyone who wants to share. Please come up the side aisles and then return down the middle aisle. Our welcome team will signal each aisle to let you know when it's your turn to come forward. Let us begin.
My dad often worked the graveyard shift. Saturday mornings after work, we would stop by the panaderia and buy sweet bread. Our favorite were the conchas, which translates to shell. They look like little turtle shells and come in different flavors. That was our family bonding time.
This year I made a honey oat bread from the Outlander Companion Cookbook, because that's like one of my favorite cookbooks.
I get to live with my favorite baker. Also, I grew up on a farm, and my mom made bread almost every week, and we bought flour by 50-pound bags.
I realize now I should have brought biscuits, because I learned to bake from my Aunt Ruth, who got up every day of her life, and baked biscuits every single morning. But I made a honey wheat bread because I learned to bake from Aunt Ruth. So this is in memory of Aunt Ruth.
Growing up in Georgia, my grandmother and great-grandmother would have homemade buttermilk biscuits every time we saw them, and have always loved them. we brought some biscuits today, but in honor of them and in honor of our busy lives, they are Pillsbury.
We made
We made cornbread muffins, right?
We made cornbread muffins.
Because
5 minutes before we left.
because
5 minutes.
mom and Granby and Granny all make delicious cornbread.
We are so grateful for the bread and the stories that were shared today. Please take one moment to close your eyes and reflect on our shared existence in this present moment. We offer up our profound gratitude for the hands and hearts of this beloved community, where we hold our hopes and dreams for those gathered here, those ancestors who went before us, and those we love and cherish beyond these walls.
Our ending song invites you to get up and move. So if you have finished swallowing, we invite you to stand and move with us. I'm going to sing it through one time, and then you can see it. The words are in your order of service. My roots go down, down into the earth. My roots go down, down into the earth. My roots go down, down into the earth. My roots go down. Then you go 1, 2, 3. My roots go down, down into the earth. My roots go down, down into the earth. My roots go down, down into the earth. My roots go down.
I am a rice seed waiting to be born. I am a rice seed waiting to be born. I am a rice seed waiting to be born. My roots go down. My roots go down, down into the earth. My roots go down, down into the earth. My roots go down, down into the earth. My roots go down. I am a wheat field blowing in the wind. I am a wheat field blowing in the wind. I am a wheat field blowing in the wind. My roots go down. My roots go down, down into the earth. My roots go down, down into the earth. My roots go down, down into the earth. My roots go down. I feel my ancestors here today. I feel my ancestors here today. I feel my ancestors here today. My roots go down. My roots go down, down into the earth. My roots go down, down into the earth. My roots go down, down into the earth. My roots go down.
I invite you to read the words printed on your order of service to extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Beloved, as we depart this holy space, nourished and grateful, we remember those who came before, those who planted the seeds, who ground the flour, who lovingly shared of themselves by breaking bread with others. May these connections inspire and sustain us. May our love, connection, and sharing continue their legacy of service to the world. As you depart this place, continue to be grateful, live in hope, and go in peace. Amen.
Thank you so much for watching our service today. We're glad you're part of our online community, where we welcome people who are diverse in faith, ethnicity, history, as well as gender identity and sexual orientation. There are many different ways you can get involved in our community. One you can do right now is by clicking like below or subscribing to our channel. If you're interested in joining our congregation, please email us at membership@firstuuhouston.org. Thanks so much for joining us.